Should Turkey be allowed to become an EU member state? Turkey and EU history. On the 14th of April 1987, Turkey had submitted an application for full membership in the EU. In 1993, the EU and Turkey Customs Union starts negotiations. Then on the 1st of January 1996, the customs union between Turkey and the EU takes effect. In December 1999, the European Council gives Turkey the status of candidate country for the EU membership at the Helsinki Summit, following the Commission's recommendations in its second regular report on Turkey. On the 17th of December 2004, the European Council decides to open membership talks with Turkey. On October 2005, accession negotiations open, and the screening process, which is the analytical examination of compliance with acquis, also begun under 35 titles. In December 2005, the Council accepted the new accession partnership document for Turkey. Since October 2005, Turkey is officially recognized as a candidate country for the EU. However, there are still many debates on whether Turkey should become an EU member state, as there are many advantages and disadvantages to it.
Advantages and disadvantages. Advantages. As Turkey has shared borders with Iran, Iraq and Syria, it will open up gateways to immense amounts of trade with the Asian economy. Turkey has the fastest growing economy in Europe and is already a huge market for EU exports. Trade has boomed in the last years. Turkey sends half of its exports to the EU and is the EU's 7th largest market. 5,400 EU companies operate in Turkey, and the bloc accounts for 70% of soaring foreign direct investment in the country. Turkey has a Muslim democracy, and it can be considered as a bridge between Europe and the Islamic world at a time of religious tension. The country has one of the largest and strongest armed forces in Europe and a key NATO ally. Allowing a majority Muslim country to enter the EU would add more culture to the EU economy and would make the entire European Union a more diverse population. Turkey has a current population of approximately 80 million people, and accepting membership would mean a huge inflow of available workers, which would deal with the high levels of unemployment, as well as making the European Union stronger.
Turkey has a young population with a plentiful supply of well-educated workers at a time of demographic decline in most EU countries. Turkey occupies a strategic location at the crossroads of Europe, the Black Sea Basin and the Middle East, with ethnicity and culture that stretches into Central Asia. It is an invaluable bridge between Europe and Asia. Furthermore, Turkey's membership would mean Europe would cover the entire southern coastline of the Black Sea as well as the western coastline thanks to Romania and Bulgaria. Turkey's huge size and power will act as a defense from any threats that may be made. With the population becoming more educated, membership will make Turkey one of the EU's powerhouses, thus being a key ally to the European Union. The country's growth rate is increasing rapidly, therefore with a growing population comes a growing workforce. Its GDP in 2014 was 3.5% and it managed the global financial crisis much better than many EU nations. Allowing membership would help Turkey to move towards being a developed country, which will be a massive benefit to the European Union. Disadvantages. Turkey as a country is deeply embedded in Asia. 97% of Turkey lies in Asia, thus only a small part of Turkey is actually within Europe. Critics say that Europe does not need unstable countries such as Iran, Iraq and Syria. Turkey also continues to recognize EU member Cyprus as an obstacle, as well as known unresolved territorial dispute with Greece. These are the talks and negotiations that have been going on since Turkey first applied for the EU in 1987, but talks did not begin until 2005. The EU does not need shared borders with Iran, Iraq and Syria because agreeing to one non-European member by default gives a right for other countries to apply. Turkey is in the center of conflict between the Islamic states in Iraq and Syria, which is causing global consequences.
Allowing Turkey to become an EU member state will increase the population by more than 70 million. Many Europeans oppose accepting a country with a rising population. Furthermore, the EU would be admitting 70 million Muslims into what is historically known as a Christian club. Although the EU is often coached on their euphemisms and emphasises on cultural differences, this argument is strongest in countries which struggle to integrate Muslim immigrants such as France, Germany and the Netherlands. Turkey has been known for its torture, freedom of speech, failure of women's rights and the treatment of religious and ethnic minorities such as Christian, Muslim, Alevis and Kurds. This goes against all the goals and core values of the EU, as well as Turkey refusing to recognise the mass killings of Americans in Ottoman Turkey in 1915 as genocide, which is an issue for some, especially in France. Turkey is a big country for the EU to absorb. With a population predicted to reach 91 million by 2050, it will become the dominant member of the EU. There's a lot of talk and fear coming from Europe due to the volume of which migrants will be flooding the continent, especially in the West. One of the unspoken anxieties that lurks within the EU is the amount of power Turkey will wield if they were to join. Turkey would have as many votes in the EU Council and as many seats in the European Parliament as Germany, which is the largest member, so there's a fear that Turkey will be an awkward state and loosen the EU's cohesion. During 2016, Turkey attempted a coup, which demonstrates to the EU that Turkey does not meet their European-style democracy. This shows a lack of maturity on Turkey's part. Turkey's politics is a big issue for the EU as they believe in human rights, whereas Turkey are known for abusing them. Dozens of journalists within Turkey have been thrown in jail, and Amnesty International's annual report is filled with different accounts of torture, free speech violations, denial of minority rights, unfair trials, and the failure to protect and care for women. With Turkey's growth rate impressively increasing, the country remains undeveloped as an economy. Turkish GDP per capita is at €13,000, and that's less than half the EU average. If the EU were to accept a country that poor, it would put unbearable strains on EU finances. To conclude, as a group, in our opinion, we believe that Turkey should not become an EU member state because Turkey's human rights laws are not suitable or compatible with EU culture. Furthermore, there's an argument of what's going to happen to the Asian side of Turkey if they do happen to join. Also, what will become of the culture and the way of living for those who don't actually want Turkey to become a member state. Turkey also is too unstable to become an EU member state, seeing as they've got shared borders with Iran, Iraq and Syria. At this point in time, Syria is one of the most dangerous countries in the world, which the EU doesn't need to have as a neighbour. Allowing a country like Turkey to become a member will bring with it inevitable threats from opposing countries.